What's up, guys? Matt Brown here for Lineups.com. It is the Monsterpod, the first of the 2025 season. And with me for this and the rest of the season, Eli Hershkovich. Yes, you've read all of his stuff over at Lineups. You know him over on the Twitter machine. But finally, you and I doing some NFL content here together on the channel. Buddy, I'm looking forward to hopefully a productive and winning 2025 season.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me aboard this year. I've been listening, watching you for a while, going back to your days on the lines.com doing the Megapod. So really excited to be on the season, man.
Guys, if you want content, if you're catching this early and you want stuff on the Chiefs and Chargers, stuff's over on the site at lineups.com. But we know most of you won't catch this before that game gets started. So we'll start here with the Steelers and the Jets. This is currently 2.5 to 3 in the market out there in favor of Pittsburgh on the road. 38.5 is your high in the market. 37.5 is your low in the market from a total perspective. Eli, we did not see Aaron Rodgers in the preseason, so the first time we see him under center for this Steelers team will be in game one here on the road against his old team. And, of course, we know a revamp over there on the Jets side as well. Anything here for you in this one?
So I saw a +3, -15 pop at DraftKings this morning. I'm going to be on the Jets. I'm going to plug my nose and back Justin Fields against an aging, to say the least, Aaron Rodgers. 1-3 straight up is Rodgers. 1-3 against the spread over the last 4 seasons. So I know on the surface it seems like, okay, quarterback advantage, and I get it to an extent with the arm, but Rodgers has underperformed expectations over the last few years, including his, 2 or 3 year stint outside of the injury with the Jets. Since 2022, Fields has thrown for more yards per attempt, 7 to 6.7, comparatively speaking, to Rodgers, also averaging more total touchdowns per start, 1.6, right above that, to 1.57. I get Mike Tomlin knows Justin Fields. It's the double revenge game. So he has success slowing down mobile quarterbacks, also a coaching advantage seemingly over Aaron Glenn, who's taking over for the Jets after being the defensive coordinator for the Lions. But I make this game closer to Jets +1.5, so Steelers a little bit under the key number of a field goal. I'm on New York, man.
Yeah, it's the only way I could go. Definitely going to be a contest play for me. And here's the thing. Aaron Rodgers is old, coming off of a major injury. I mean, I'm just not going to assume that Aaron Rodgers is going to be competent. I mean, he might be washed. I mean, this is not like out of the range of possibilities for this dude to step behind what is at best a middling offensive line, could be a bad offensive line, and just produce because, he's Aaron Rodgers. This isn't how I think us as handicappers have to be able to look at this and say, he could be done, and this could be bad. And by the way, his number one receiver's route tree is, hey, DK, run as fast as you can. That's literally what the route tree is for DK Metcalf. So against Sauce Gardner. Yeah, and so, what are we assuming is going to be, the play here with this on the Pittsburgh side of things, not even seeing the dude throw a pass under center. So I'm with you. It's the only way I could go is the Jet side of things. It'll definitely be a contest play for me. And before it's all said and done, who knows, maybe that thing does end up in my account as well. I have to see it with my own eyes before I'm just going to assume that Aaron Rodgers can still play football at a high level. And I think the Jets at a full field goal is certainly the way to look there. Dolphins on the road at the Colts. This is currently there's a pick actually circa, and then all the way out to 1.5 in the market in favor of the Colts at home. You can find 46 market low all the way up to 46.5 from a total sample. 47.5 actually out there, an expensive one in the market as well. So Eli, we know here every offseason sentiment about the Miami Dolphins was negative. This was, you didn't hear any one positive thing about this team all offseason, and the Colts decide they're going to go with Daniel Jones. They're going to sit Anthony Richardson as Irsay passes and his family takes over, and they're like, hey, listen, we got the guy under a rookie contract. We don't feel like we have to shove him under center if we don't have to. Daniel Jones, at least I think there's very few people out there wouldn't say at least raises their floor. Now that we know the upside is absolutely capped, but at least raises the floor a little bit for this team. Interesting game for me because there just wasn't a lot of love for either one of these teams in the offseason as we get in here. There's got to be a buy point, but the problem is they're both teams that are getting beat down in the market. Like nobody likes either one of these teams. Like normally I'd be looking at this going like, okay, there's got to be an obvious buy point on one of these two teams, but it's like everybody hates both of them.
Yeah, you're right. The Dolphins win total got bet pretty hard to the under. And Indianapolis has been somewhat of an intriguing team I've seen, according to some sharps, maybe as a long shot to win the AFC South. But the total is the most interesting aspect for me in this game because it got bet up initially about a month ago, and then it got bet back down pretty quickly. But like you said, there's been a little bit of market resistance now, juiced at, 47-ish at some shops, like you said, from the get-go. Daniel Jones against a banged-up Dolphins secondary, Tua, and this Dolphins offense in a dome. I don't necessarily want to fade that with Tyreek Hill, even though there's been negative sentiment around him. So lean to the over, but probably a pass for me.
Yeah, I don't have anything in this game in particular. I did make a season-long play on Tyler Warren over his yardage once they announced Daniel Jones. Now, that number is up a full 25 yards, which isn't a huge deal, but is up 25 yards from when I bet it. But I think if there's anyone that benefits from Daniel Jones, it's going to be Warren, who we know the intermittent passes were the things that really bothered Anthony Richardson. Like, the guy just couldn't be accurate in that kind of 8 to 12 yard range. It was a really big struggle for him. And we know Daniel Jones can be check down Charlie. I mean, he is a dude that will sometimes just, frustrate you to hell and back because the dude is not going to take any risk and is going to be super risk averse. So I think that helps Warren as well. It was at 524.5 when I bet it. I think it's up to 549.5. But again, as long as they're not pulling our leg here, Eli, if they're telling us the truth that Daniel Jones is going to get a fair shot to start for this team, unless he basically plays his way out of this, if I get 8 to 10 games of Daniel Jones before they pull the plug and put Anthony Richardson in, I'd still like that as a season-long prop. If this was all song and dance and they'll pull the plug on him after two games, then maybe I don't love it quite as much.
Yeah, I don't hate the take at all. And then one last thing I wanted to mention with this game too. Miami's pass rush isn't necessarily anything to fear, but Daniel Jones and his legs, I think, are getting a little too much credit. An 11% career sack rate, so mobility outside the pocket. When the pocket breaks down, maybe to the fullest extent Jones can make a play on the ground, but still, he takes his fair share of sacks. I'm not super bullish on Jones. I will say, though, I think at around 46.5, the over is intriguing, like I said, but maybe I would bet the Warren prop instead.
Now's a good time as any to remind you guys, if you have not done so already, hit that subscribe button down below. Do appreciate the support here on the channel. And if you feel so inclined, you can let us know in the comment section what you're playing and, just how wrong we are on our takes on any of these games. Or, I would say how right we are, but we know you don't want to tell us how right we are, just how wrong we are in some of these takes. But we'll read them all and do appreciate you guys engaging with us and supporting the channel here. We got the Carolina Panthers on the road at the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is currently 3.5. in favor of the Jags. It has been 3.5 for a long time now in favor of the Jags. 46.5 to 47 is our total here in this one. The Jags go out, and of course, they get Travis Hunter. It looks like they tried to address some of the issues that they had last year as well. Carolina goes and trades away Adam Thielen, who's kind of a security blanket there, for Bryce Young, who surprisingly played well over the last 10 games of the season, Eli. And it's one of those things where not like subjectively, but kind of like objectively played well. If you go in and you look, 15 touchdowns to 6 picks. If you like the PFF stats and the different things like that, like I like to look at them, I like to dig into the stuff. Big time throw percentage is a stat that they like to talk about, where these dudes are making these really good throws into tight windows. He led the NFL over that span in big time throw percentage. He threw for multiple TDs in the final 3 games of the season and all of that. So interesting to see if it does carry over into this season, and will it even matter? It's a rookie receiver that's got to be his number one now that they got rid of Thielen, and of course it's still a defense that's going to give up a lot of points.
Yeah, no, all those points are warranted. Jacksonville, I will say, defensively beefing up a little bit in the secondary, getting Cowboys nickel back Jordan Lewis. So maybe that hampers Young's outlook a little bit. But you're right. Performed really well down the stretch. You're getting the above the key number of a field goal, albeit juiced. But if you want to back Carolina, I understand it. Total of 47, kind of a middle ground for me. We saw it last night or a couple nights ago, depending on when you're watching this, with the Cowboys and the Eagles. Maybe Carolina and Jacksonville starts off hot, and then we get a weather delay, and all of a sudden things cool down. Miraculously, that game went under the total. So with the new kickoff rules, I'm not super inclined to bet totals at this point, especially with the market not necessarily settling one way or the other. And with this spread being right around the key number, it's probably Carolina or pass for me, but no play. I doubt I'm going to have a play on this game.
A couple of months ago, so this is to be the last time we have to say this because these lines have been out for a couple of months now. And so, like, it's, bets get made for 8 weeks leading into the season. That's not going to be the case moving forward for us. But I have an over 46 in the account in this one. I think Carolina might be. I'm assuming Carolina's going to be a dead over team here for a little while anyway, where the defense is really, really bad. And then also the offense, I think, if Russ Young does carry over into the season, is not going to be completely inept. Now, again, this was made before the Thielen trade. This was made whatever. So, like, there are certain...
Ted McMillan, though.
Yeah, Ted McMillan in there for sure. Can Xavier Legette live up to what they thought whenever they drafted him? I mean, like, there's that. I mean, it's he better because he's gonna have a major role. At least they're gonna try to give him a major role there in this one. And look, I have never been a huge Trevor Lawrence guy, but I also don't think he's complete trash. I know a lot of people think that he's complete trash, and against a bad defense that Carolina's going to be rolling out there with really no pass rush to speak of, I think he could have a little bit of success as well. So anyway, that was the thinking at the time. It's 7 weeks later, so it is what it is. But I have a little bit of over 46 in my account.
What do you make of Jacksonville? I know we've only touched on a couple of AFC South teams at this point, but Jags, plus 300-ish in the market, depending on where you're shopping to win the division. We'll talk about Houston later on, but are you long-term higher on Lawrence with Liam Cohen? I'm sure you are, but is it enough to pull the trigger on Jacksonville to win the AFC South?
Yeah, so I played a little bit of Jacksonville, and mainly just because I didn't think the gap between them and Houston was as big as the price dictated when we're looking at that division. I mean, this is a real concern with Houston on the offensive line. I mean, this is a massive deal. I mean, it is not the worst offensive line in the NFL. It's like the worst by margin, according to look. I'm not an offensive line like evaluator, but these dudes that are like, this could be real bad for this team if they don't figure out some trick along the way, because just on talent and on paper, this offensive line is historically terrible. And so even if CJ Stroud does kind of bounce back, I don't know if it's going to matter when you have an offensive line like that. So I thought just the gap between Jacksonville and Houston was more of a price play than anything else, than me being in love with Jacksonville. But I didn't think it was warranted for them to be as far away from Houston as they are.
Yeah, I'm with you. And we'll talk about a team that I'm kind of bullish on as a long shot in this division later in the podcast. But I wouldn't hate any long shot for that matter, Jacksonville included, to win the division for sure.
New York Football Giants on the road at the Washington Commanders. This is market low of 5.5, and we have sixes out there as well. So 5.5 and sixes. Giants been getting some money, and they got my money as well. It is 45.5 to 46 from a total standpoint out there, Eli. And no one cares about what I have again, but I've got a 6.5 in the account with the Giants, and this was something where the thought process with this when this was made as well, kind of a deal of, this was when McLaurin was still holding out. Is he going to play? Or even if he does get signed, was it going to be in time for him to be in game shape? And how's that going to look? And he definitely wasn't out there at least to take snaps with Debo. And how does that chemistry work? And what's going to go on with all of that? And at the end of the day, I think the Giants defense is just going to be a pain in the ass for a lot of people. I'm not like super bullish on the offense because it's still Russ Wilson, but Malik Neighbors is really, really good, and he's going to bust plays no matter who's playing quarterback. We saw that last year. And so I took the points with the Giants. I think that this defense is going to be annoying to a lot of teams, and maybe there's just enough on the offensive side to keep stuff close when you have a big spread like this.
Yeah, Lattimore against Neighbors is going to be the matchup to watch for me in this game. With this line, though, right around 6, there are some juiced 5.5s in Washington's direction. I make this right around a touchdown, so I'm probably not going to have a play on it. Like you said, it opened 7.5 in when the look at lines came out. So just based off line value alone, I don't see enough to play New York. But you hit the nail on the head, too, not just the matchup with Neighbors and Lattimore, with Lattimore being dealt from New Orleans last season. This Giants defensive line can wreak havoc on a game-by-game basis this year. Abdul Carter, the favorite to win defensive rookie of the year. But Jaden Daniels last year made play after play when the pocket broke down. Granted, Commanders benefited a ton from fourth down variance, so maybe that goes against them this season. I don't hate the play. It's just with the market dipping this line quite a bit since it opened up, not really enough value to make a bet for me.
Yeah, it is. I imagine that the Commanders will be an intriguing survivor play for some people out there as well. This is the one I would stay away from for sure. I mean, again, if there's anything left in the tank with Russell Wilson, he does still have Malik Neighbors. We talked about this defensive line. We talked about this defense overall for the Giants. Like, I don't know. I think there's better spots this week in Survivor than taking the Commanders. So I imagine it'll be fairly popular, but not one that I'm going to consider.
Yeah, I'm with you. Honestly, I'm kind of intrigued by the juiced 5.5 in the Commanders' direction if you can grab that, but probably going to be a pass overall.
From a macro standpoint here, we saw C.J. Stroud have an awesome rookie season. We see these defensive coordinators get some film to go into the offseason and study on him. Then we see him struggle a little bit. Now, there were injuries that played into account with all of that as well, but a little bit of a parallel from an offensive line standpoint. The Washington offensive line's not very good either, though adding Tunsil certainly helps. Do you think at all we see regression from Jaden Daniels, or do you think that the setup that they've got with everything that's going on here, you expect just him to kind of continue to roll on?
The fourth down variance thing that I touched on could very well play a role if this Commanders offense does regress. We saw the Eagles defense, by the way, struggle big time against Dallas. Adoree Jackson is nothing to write home about, even though he exited in the second half. My overall point being, the NFC East is maybe underratedly wide open. So if you like the Giants, not only in this game, but long term, and maybe they go to Jackson Dart, that could be worth a play on words here, a dart throw on New York to win the NFC East, just as a quarter of a unit or maybe even a tenth of a unit as a long shot bet. If you do think the Commanders offense does regress and the Eagles defense does continue to look like it did on Thursday night.
Cincinnati Bengals on the road at the Cleveland Browns. This is 5.5 in favor of Cincinnati. We are looking at 47.5 to 48.5 out there in the market from a total standpoint. Cincinnati made a concerted effort to get their starters more time in the preseason. We have seen this team start slow, and they decided that, hey, the reason was because we weren't doing anything in the preseason. We need to go out there and we need to get some reps together, and so that is exactly what Cincinnati did. Joe Burrow played more snaps this preseason than all preseasons combined. On the Cleveland side of things, they drafted 2 quarterbacks, and what did they do? They decide to go with a 40-year-old quarterback instead, and Joe Flacco, who's going to start for them, at least to start the season off here. That being said, we have not seen a flood of money coming in on Cincinnati. Of course, Cincinnati broke everybody's heart last year. If you were playing any sort of pool, any sort of anything last year, broke your heart again in week number 3 as well. How do you look here at Cincinnati on the road at Cleveland to start things off?
Okay, so you look at Zach Taylor, and the Bengals are 1-11 straight up, as you alluded to, over the first couple weeks of the season in Taylor's tenure as the Bengals head coach. 1-11 straight up, that is. But the Browns' defensive line could have a major absence. Now, we'll see. We're recording this before Friday's practice is underway, but Myles Garrett missed practice for the Browns on Thursday, and we've seen this line tick up a little bit back to 5.5 at some shops since then. Like you said, the Bengals got reps in the preseason, which wasn't the norm for Joe Burrow and this offense in years past. So if they do start off hotter, or at least somewhat hot, a little more so than usual. Granted, Jim Schwartz, the Browns defensive coordinator, longtime NFL defensive coordinator, has had a lot of success scheming against Joe Burrow with his zone coverage. But with that said, I'm kind of intrigued by using Cincinnati as my survivor pick, even though they cost, like you said, survivor pickers per se last year. We have no idea what we're going to get from Joe Flacco at 40 years old.
I agree.
So,
like, everybody's just like, I mean, is it the best option for week one? Maybe, because it is two rookie quarterbacks. But, like, Joe Flacco is, I mean, not even replacement level at this point. So I'm with you. It's like, everyone's just going like, well, I mean, Flacco, this thing could get crazy. And I'm like, well, they're not very talented, and it's still a 40-year-old Joe Flacco.
It depends what version of the Bengals defense shows up. If it's preseason defense, giving up 2 straight touchdowns to the including the Washington backups in the second game of the preseason, then maybe Joe Flacco is able to score on a down-by-down basis or possession-by-possession basis. But, yeah, I think the Bengals are worth a look, especially in bigger survivor pools.
We got, Al Golden taking over on the defensive side for Cincinnati. So they're, we'll see. He won the Broyles Award last year as the best coordinator in all of college football. They did try to address some of the issues there. They pay Hendrickson, so he'll be back out there. Daryl Slayton got signed on the defensive line. Oren Burks, a linebacker that actually PFF really, really loves. They signed him. They drafted Shamar Stewart. Dax Hill is going to be back in the secondary after he tore his ACL in week number 5. So it shouldn't be, at least on paper, as bad as last year. But, I guess I need to see it kind of play out in front of me. I'm going to watch this one and see what we've got here. But Cincinnati's going to be a super interesting deal. I took I know that this award has typically gone to the best player that is not a quarterback, but I took like some 55-1 on Burrow for Offensive Player of the Year. And Eli, just the rationale behind this is maybe I can monetize this ticket if he plays himself into the conversation. But he led the league in passing yards and touchdowns last year. If we think this defense is still going to be an issue for this team, he has his weapons in Chase and Higgins. No one expects this offense to not work. And so if he exceeds what he did last year from a yardage and touchdown standpoint, he might not win it. But if I've got a 55-1 and he plays his way down to being, 7-8-1, 6-7-8-1, something like that, then I can figure out a way to monetize that one. And if he can get heads up, then of course we'll just it's a smash spot for us here. So I know it's a super long shot, but that's why I think I'm getting 55-1 on it with him. I mean, remember, if he was comeback player last year, so they can't, like they gave him that. If the team's 9-8, they're not going to give him MVP no matter how awesome his season is or anything. So I don't know. Is there a consolation prize somewhere for Joe Burrow for having an awesome season? Maybe it's Offensive Player of the Year. So that was the rationale behind that.
Plus 650 to win MVP, I would probably be a little, obviously when you look at the market and implied probability, there's a better chance for him to win MVP rather than Offensive Player of the Year. But I get it. If the Bengals defense is as bad as everyone expects, he's going to have more possessions. He's going to put up more yards with this electric offense. So, yeah, I don't hate the long shot.
Las Vegas on the road at New England. This is 2.5 across the board here in favor of the Patriots at home. 43.5, 244 is our total. Eli, we know the Raiders go out, at least get some stability at the quarterback position, getting Geno Smith in there under center. They draft Ashton Genty as what could be a real playmaker here in the NFL. Listen, again, I'm no scout, but everybody loved Ashton Genty coming out. And so I believe he will probably have success based off what these people say, but that's to be determined. Drake May, pretty good rookie season for him, showed signs that maybe he could be the franchise quarterback that they are looking for there to take over after Tom Brady left. And New England Patriots go out, and with bringing in Mike Vrabel, what do? They sign a whole bunch of defensive dudes, and they bulked up on the defensive side. Milton Williams, Carlton Davis, Harold Landry, Robert Spillane. All of this gets done on the defensive side. And, look, I think the upside here for this defense could be pretty good. I guess the question mark is still on the offensive side of the ball. What say you about this one?
The total for me, going back to the Colts-Dolphins game, I'm kind of intrigued by this total as well. 42.5 was the number for most of the summer, now up to 43.5, like you said, even 44 at some shops. No Christian Gonzalez most likely for the Patriots defense, their best cornerback and one of the better cornerbacks across the NFL. So Geno Smith should have success against New England's defense. Drake May and the Patriots have gotten a lot of love from the public sentiment throughout the offseason. Raiders have gotten a lot of love from some sharp bettors I've talked to in this one. But under the key number of 3, I'm not really inclined to back Las Vegas. Maybe use them as a teaser leg. But straight up, or at least in terms of the traditional point spread, probably a stay away.
As we look at this, let's talk about another macro thing here. For the first few weeks of the season, I probably, and this might be a leak for me, or maybe I'm curious as to your opinion. Okay, Las Vegas making the trip across the country to go to New England. It's week 1 for me. Everyone's going to be like, that's a dome team going outdoors and traveling across the country. I'm like, but it's week 1. It's still warm weather. It's still like, I understand you'd rather be playing at home. Every team would rather be playing at home. But I don't put a ton of that in the first couple of weeks of the season. I get it. I'm sure if you're living on an airplane by the time we get to week 13 and stuff, yes, I mean, that sucks. And it's back-to-back roadies and all that can suck. But I mean, Vegas is going to sleep in their own bed, and that they have been for the entire offseason until they decide to go to New England and play a game in, again, warmish weather. It's not cold yet. It's not going to be snowing. It's not whatever. So I don't know. How do you view these early season road games for some of these spots that we would normally be highlighting maybe, as we get further into the season?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. To me, it's dependent whether it's week 2, week 3, or especially later in the season, depending on the previous matchup, what happens in that matchup. These teams haven't played. The starters haven't played in, 3 weeks at this point, and they played a quarter, a half in that second or third preseason game when I'm talking about Smith and May, at least when it comes to the respective offenses. So, yeah, I don't pay it much. I don't bat an eye, really, when it comes to spots, road spots, travel spots in week 1.
The reason that is a question I wanted to ask, because here we go, leading into Arizona on the road at New Orleans in week number 1. This is out to 6.5 now. There is still a 6 out there in the market if you want to play Arizona. 42.5 to 43.5 in the market from a total standpoint. New Orleans has decided to go with Spencer Rattler as their starting quarterback for week number 1. Eli, I was getting texts from my friends down in New Orleans. There are still face value tickets to be had in week number 1 for New Orleans. They are not excited about this team at all. I think everybody probably has them pegged in the bottom 5 for the course of the season as well. And so that's why you get a Arizona team out to, again, it's 6.5. in some spots out there in this thing. Is that too much in your opinion?
Well, my question for you off the bat, have you seen any columns? Have your friends seen any columns in New Orleans asking who would win, the LSU Tigers or the New Orleans Saints straight up?
I mean, it is a hilarious talk to have, but this team on paper, I mean, I have them as we enter the season, and we'll, you and I have dynamic power ratings, and we'll see how it all changes after I see all these teams with my own eyes, but I have them 32nd right now. There is nothing to get excited about with this team at all. And so I kind of understand why I understand why Kyler Murray is this big of a favorite on the road. I kind of get it. There's just nothing to love at all about this Saints team.
Yeah. From the point spread, if you look at just the point spread, home field advantage excluded, the Saints, like you said, pretty much power rated across the board as the worst team in the NFL. The Cardinals somewhat considered average. So when you translate that into power ratings and the actual numbers that get baked into the point spread, considering or evaluating the Saints, though, as 8 points worse than Arizona, to me is a little bit of a stretch, but I have no reason to bet New Orleans in this game outside of the number purely, especially, why bet this unless it hits 7 if you really want to take the Saints, or maybe wait live to bet New Orleans if they get down early in this game. Last year, I have a trivia question for you, Matt. Spencer Rattler was 46th out of 47 quarterbacks in EPA plus CPOE composite rating. Who was dead last in the NFL?
Was it AR-15? Was it Anthony Richardson?
Close, but Dorian Thompson Robinson.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's how bad Spencer Rattler was,
Yeah.
if anybody needed any sort of clarity. So, yeah, if you want to take or tease Arizona down, I get it. If you want to wait to bet the Saints live, I think that's actually somewhat of an underrated angle, maybe around double digits, but I have no reason to bet this one pre-flop.
Yeah, I went and maxed. I went ahead and did the max entries in Circa this year, so I've got 10 to play with. I think Arizona's going to get at least half of them from me, if not 6 or 7 of the 10. I'm not in love with Arizona. I don't think the Cardinals. They addressed some stuff in the offseason. I shouldn't say that. They addressed some things in the offseason and should be a little bit better. But man, I want to pick on the Saints as much as I can, as early and as often as I can. I especially rolling out Spencer Rattler. I think this is an even better spot here. So, the reason I asked the question before is it was kind of a leading question because, hey, listen, it is a team on the road in week number 1, but dome team going to a dome. It's first week of the season. They can go to New Orleans whenever the hell they want to. They could have gotten there 2 weeks ago if they wanted to. I mean, it's all of that. I have no problem playing the Cardinals, I don't think, in Survivor here in week number 1. And I think they're going to get, like I said, at least half of mine, if not 6 or 7 of the 10. And I think I'm going to feel pretty good about it. If I go down because New Orleans and Spencer Rattler takes me out, then kind of like so be it. Like I'm not going to like beat myself up because I didn't get cute. It's just, NFL'd me.
Right, which has been the case in some Survivor.
Yeah.
Week 1 losses like Cincinnati last year, Jacoby Brissett. Then if you back Cincinnati, NFL'd you in week 1. But yeah, we have a Survivor column up over at the lineups.com. You could check out Alex Christensen wrote it on Monday. He wrote about Arizona being one of his picks in some pools. So I'll be on the Bengals reluctantly. You'll be on the Cardinals probably a little less reluctantly.
Tampa Bay on the road at Atlanta. This is down to 1.5 in some of the places out there. You can still find a 2 if you want that. 46.5 up to 47.5 in the market from a total standpoint. Eli, I'm some of the people that took the 2.5 with Atlanta, and mainly because I think this might be the worst version of Tampa that we get all season. I mean, no Wirfs, no Godwin, no McMillan, Vita Vea missed practice. Like, there's like all kinds of stuff going on. No Liam Cohen for the first time. I mean, like I think there's just like the list, kind of laundry list of deals where if you wanted to go against Tampa, that you could make the case for it. And in the small sample size we saw last year, I actually liked what I saw from Penix. Again, the dudes that do this for a living, and not me, but the dudes that actually evaluate talent, they liked what they saw in Penix last year as well in the small sample size. We know London's a stud. We know Bijan is a stud, and this was another one of those teams that went out and addressed some of the deficiencies on the defensive side of the ball as well. So this was kind of a, like you talked about earlier, like you were with the Jets, like you held your nose saying, like, I don't love the Falcons either. But it just, to me, I think I'm getting Tampa at the right time here. And so I played some plus 2.5 with Atlanta.
No Wirfs, no Godwin. How much can the rookie wide receiver outside of Mike Evans provide in this one? Atlanta secondary a little bit vulnerable, but they beefed up the defensive line in the draft. So maybe they have some semblance of a pass rush for the first time under Raheem Morris. But yeah, the Buccaneers defense against Michael Penix is the biggest question one way or the other for me because, like you said, small sample for Penix last year facing the Giants, Commanders, Panthers, no defense you necessarily want to back on a week-to-week basis. And the Bucs have injuries at wide receiver and Godwin on the offensive line. Granted, McGarry is out for the Falcons, so Penix's blind side is going to be protected or unprotected, depending on how you want to look at it throughout this game against one of the best defensive schemers in the NFL and Todd Bowles. I think I found my other teaser leg, though, with the Raiders. Falcons Raiders teaser. What do you think?
Love that one for sure. That's going to be part of some of the teaser action for me this week as well. I mean, I underrated too. I know we like to talk about like other teams' offensive lines. This Atlanta offensive line is pretty stout too. And I mean, like, so Penix, I understand there's the injury right now, but like, overall, just kind of like position by position, pretty stout too. So I don't think Penix is going to have a lot of excuses if he can't get some stuff done here over the course of the early part of the season. So again, maybe I'm falling for the banana in the tailpipe, and Tampa Bay is going to come out, and even without Wirfs and without Godwin, without McMillan and all the stuff like that, just still look like the Bucs that they have the last couple of seasons. But prove it to me, Tampa Bay. I have taken the 2.5, and I love taking it up to 8.5. I don't see Atlanta getting blown out no matter what, right?
Yeah, especially if Penix, I mean, like you said, Atlanta's offense has skill position-wise may have the edge in this one, depending on if you get the small sample version of Penix that we saw last year, with Drake London potentially being a long shot to win Offensive Player of the Year. I've seen some bettors I respect pick that. Kyle Pitts, what are you going to get from him? Is he finally the sleeper this year in fantasy that you're targeting in some of your drafts, or already?
Yeah, I know. It's just, dude, this is seriously, this is like, I mean, I'll put it this way. I'm going to have, I play, this week 1 is always an easy time for me to drive to the California border. By the way, we don't have DFS in Nevada. It sucks. And so, like, I have to drive to the California border and go, like, do all this stuff, or Arizona and all this. But I do it for week 1. I want all the sweats for week 1, like, that there is possible. I'm going to have some Atlanta stacks. Like, I'm going to have, like, some Atlanta, like some Penix London stuff and some Penix London Bijan stuff, and just see what that looks like. It'll be fun to root for anyway, because who doesn't want to root for Bijan going out there and doing Bijan things? And so, like, I'll have those as well. Atlanta at least intrigues me, but like I said, nothing. Oh, and as we say that, screen flashes and some Tampa money has come in. The one of the sites went from 1.5 back to 2. So maybe I'm on the wrong side here, Eli. Maybe I'm on the wrong side.
Well, at least when it comes to your Falcon stacks, and whether you want to be sharp or square, whatever it may be, however you want to look at it, look, everyone and their mother bet on Saquon Barkley to score on Thursday Night Football. Everyone bet on Jalen Hurts. Maybe a little less than Saquon Barkley, but you get my point. Both of them scored at least 1 touchdown. Sharp or square, sometimes the squarest bets cash in, and maybe Bijan Robinson ATD touchdown or an anytime touchdown isn't that crazy, even though it's a little square in my book.
Hey, listen, it's like I say often. It's like sometimes obvious things are obvious for a reason, right? I mean, like, sometimes obvious things are obvious for a reason, and yeah, the Jalen Hurts and Saquon stuff was certainly that on Thursday night. Tennessee on the road at Denver. This is out to 8.5 at every place except for Fanatics. So this is you can still find an 8 if you're looking to back Denver at Fanatics. Everywhere else out to 8.5. 42.5 is the prevailing total, though circa is up to 43. Here in this one, we will see Cam Ward take his first NFL snaps on the road against one of the best defenses in the NFL. Eli, is he going to be able to keep this thing within 8 points?
So I have a over win total bet on the Tennessee Titans at 5.5. Now, does that mean I have to bet Tennessee in this game? No, maybe if I'm a little bullish on the Titans and Cam Ward. Listen, nothing can be as bad as Will Levis was last year.
Absolutely. I agree.
4 pick sixes.
No, dude. He was the running joke of every piece of content I ever did on the Titans last year. He's a walking highlight reel, but it was a walking low light reel. I mean, like, it was like, you feel like the little Benny Hill music should be playing in the background at all times. Every time the snap was like coming to him, it was just so amazing. So yes, this can only be an upgrade. It's impossible for this to be a downgraded quarterback.
They were historically bad on special teams. Now, I get the sentiment around the Broncos. Bo Nix should take another step under Sean Payton in year 2. Defensively, you add Dre Greenlaw. Granted, we don't know what level of performance we're going to get from him in his first snaps, I think, since, a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. So, over, this line reaching 8.5, 9, I think, before there was a little resistance back down to 8.5. Cam Ward in high altitude doesn't sound a lot of fun to bet, but if I'm going to bet anything in this game, it's going to be the Tennessee Titans. I'm bullish on them long term. I'm probably a little bit more intrigued to bet on Tennessee in week 2 at home against the Rams, depending on the Texans-Rams result. If we get maybe an inflated number, if the Titans get blown out, and LA conversely beats the Texans. So maybe I'm looking ahead a little bit to bet on Tennessee, buy low after a bad performance from Ward, but also live could be another look for me in this one at double digits.
So I think I'm higher on Denver than market, but not so to the point where I think they're just going to go out and like win in blowouts, so like this thing sitting here at 8.5, not all that intriguing to me. I will say I did connect this to a Eagles teaser. So I do have the second leg pending here with Denver at 2. So I have Denver -2 in a teaser leg with this. Like I said, I like Denver a lot this year. I have some little pieces here and there of them to win the West. I have some little piece of Sean Payton to win Coach of the Year. I have some of that stuff. Again, I think this defense is going to be just hell on wheels for everyone going up against them. And so while I would like to believe that Bo Nix takes a step forward, even if he's just Bo Nix from last year, I think that can win, some games here for Denver, given what they're going to get from the defense in this one as well. But again, like I said, I'm not so high on them to think they're going to just go blow everybody out. So 8.5 is just not interesting to me. If you wanted to play teaser leg, if people are looking for partners out there and stuff like that, it is a home team, going up against a rookie quarterback and all that different stuff like that. So I think that that's at least something you could look. I know this is going to be a pretty popular survivor side as well, Eli. I can't talk anyone off of it. That said, I like Denver, so I kind of think Denver has a little bit of future value, like maybe a little bit more future value maybe than some people do. So I'm not using Denver mainly because I think there are other spots to use Denver moving forward. But if you want to play Denver against a rookie quarterback on the road in the first game of the year, I'm not going to say that's a bad play in any stretch.
I can already see it unfolding during the witching hour red zone. Maybe it'll be a commercial break at this point with Scott Hansen not really on the screen. But Tennessee driving, one possession game late. Broncos up, by 4, something like that. So you're covering the teaser. Survivor, Broncos backers are on their toes. I do think this game is going to be a little bit closer than the public expects. And like you said, even if I don't come in on Tennessee, I don't see any reason to back Denver against the spread over the key number.
Yeah, it is just a little bit too rich for me there in that one. San Francisco 49ers on the road at the Seattle Seahawks, and this one got a little bit more interesting yesterday. We're sitting 1.5 to 2 in favor of the 49ers, 43.5 the prevailing total, though you can find a flat 43 out there as well. And we didn't even get to a game yet, and we get the limited in practice Christian McCaffrey calf injury note come through on the phone yesterday, Eli, and I'm sure every 49ers backer and everybody that has drafted him in fantasy already and all of that sits there and the collective groans hitting themselves in the head. Not again, not again. But we'll see. It's still, it's Friday as we record this, and so things could get better. But we did get the whole Christian McCaffrey injury notice thing popped through yesterday. And so with that, the 2.5s all went away. And so we're either at 2 or 1.5 now in favor of the 49ers on the road.
I will say there is one, granted it's juiced, but there is one 2.5 plus 2.5 in Seattle's direction over at BetMGM as well.
Oh, yeah, yep, I see it, yep.
So we'll see, depending on when you listen to this, when you watch this, maybe McCaffrey practices a bit in limited fashion on Friday, gets cleared, and is ready to play on Sunday, and this line ticks back up to 2.5 across the board. But regardless, I will probably have a play on Seattle in this game. I forget which offense you brought it up with earlier in the show, Matt, but I think this is the worst version of the 49ers offense you're going to get just based on injuries at the wide receiver position. No Brandon Ayuk in this game. Obviously, no Deebo Samuel with him getting dealt to the Commanders. We didn't touch on that, the impact he may have in Washington with Jaden Daniels earlier. And Ricky Pearsall, how much realistically can he do against a very, very good and still probably underrated Seahawks defense under former Ravens defensive coordinator Mike Macdonald? Now, I get Sam Darnold playing behind one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL, but Clint Kubiak, small sample, but when that Saints offense was healthy last year and he was running the zone rushing scheme, and that Saints offensive line, mind you, was considered one of the worst in the NFL coming into last season, they had more than a pulse over the first couple weeks, even the first 3 weeks when they gave the Eagles a little bit of a scare in week 3 at home. Kenneth Walker in his own rushing scheme against a 49ers defense that, yes, has Robert Saleh back in the fold, but talent-wise, what can you necessarily expect? So it is Sam Darnold, but even under the key number, I get it if you would rather tee Seattle up, but I'm a little more bullish on the Seahawks than the market is. I'll probably be on Seattle plus 2.5 here.
I like what you're saying here, because I have been the anti-49ers guy all offseason, and everyone's just calling me an idiot and how stupid am I and this, that, and the other. And Eli, here's the deal. When I ask you, what specifically do you like about this team? And all they do is say, well, the schedule. Like, no, that's not. You're not like liking anything about the team. You're just telling me that on paper that the schedule looks easy. Teams overperform all the time. This is like just because the schedule looks like it's going to be easy now doesn't necessarily mean that the schedule is going to be easy. Like, no, tell me, what do you like about this team? Well, it's an easy schedule. They lucked out with the scheduling standpoint. Nobody points to the fact that, like you said, Ayuk's not going to be out there. Juwan Jennings hadn't practiced with them all offseason and whatever, and maybe he'll magically heal now that he got the $3 million incentive to show up and all this. But I mean, we'll see. But Brock Purdy was just average, a little bit above league average last year, according to all the grading sites. And they lose all of these pieces on the defensive side. Like, that's not being talked about. They are not the same personnel that they had over the last couple of years as well. And so, I mean, I get it. Is the schedule easy? Sure. On paper, it looks like the schedule's easy. But if that's all that you have to hang your hat on, then I think that's a kind of a weak argument. I'm higher on Seattle in this division as well. I'm higher on the Rams in this division as well. And I think that I do not think that we're just, it's because it's the 49ers, and because it's Shanahan, well, let's just go ahead and crown them. I think that's being a little lazy in the handicapping.
See, my concern now is that I don't think we've ever disagreed or ever agreed on anything in our entire friendship existence, knowing one another. So the fact that we haven't adamantly disagreed with each other here on the podcast maybe is a warning sign for week 1 for listeners and viewers. But yeah, man, I have nothing to disagree with you there on the Seahawks. You essentially talked me into the bet, but like I said, the safer pick is Seattle in a teaser leg, whether it's with the Raiders or the Falcons. But give me Seattle against the spread here, especially if this line shifts back up to 2.5 across the board and McCaffrey does practice. That doesn't really factor into my handicap much. Obviously, I would love it if he doesn't play and I get the Seahawks plus 2.5 minus 15. But either way, I'll likely be on Seattle.
Detroit football Lions on the road at the Green Bay Packers. This is 2.5. There's a 1.5 at ESPN, but prevailing 2.5 in favor of Green Bay. 47.5 is our total. So we head into this one with the question mark that we had with the Eagles 2 seasons ago, and all of this is, okay, you lose your coordinators on a good team. How does that impact them? How's that going to impact them as we head into the next season? That's what we're dealing with here with Detroit, as they are going to navigate this season without their offensive and defensive coordinator. On the Green Bay side of things, we're trying to figure out are they good? Are they not good? Are they middling? Who's going to be the number 1 receiver? They've got 9 different receivers. Who's going to step forward? There's all kinds of questions to be answered there. I am super intrigued by this game, Eli, but I have nothing in my account on this one. I'm going to evaluate Detroit. Do they still just look the same? Is it a new look team? Like, what is, who's emerging as the number 1 receiver for Green Bay? Is Golden, the rookie, literally going to have to be the number 1 there? There's lots to me. Does Parsons even play? Like, I don't know. I'm happy we're getting a fun game here in the afternoon window for week number 1, but I can't get to a bet here.
I'm really surprised. So I do have a bet in my account on the Packers. I bet Packers money line. I bet Packers to win the NFC North before they traded for Parsons. And then I jumped on, as soon as the news came out, the Packers to win the NFC. So I'm maybe a little bit more bullish than you, probably equivalent to the market rating, at least when it comes to the NFC odds to win the conference, because they're right behind the Eagles, at least entering week 1 to win the NFC. Go back to last year. So just when you look at the stats outside of the offseason hoopla around the Lions winning or losing their coordinators and also losing, by the way, Frank Ragnow, their linchpin on the offensive line, going back to last year. Pretty underrated void up front, especially just when it comes to conversation and discussion points this week. But the Packers and the Lions finished 4th and 6th last year, or 3rd and 4th, in offensive DVOA last season. Lions 3rd, Packers 4th. Lions 5th in defensive DVOA. The Packers finished 7th. These two teams weren't very far apart. Packers had red zone issues in their first matchup at Lambeau. Detroit covered and won on the road. And then Detroit drained clock in that second meeting at Ford Field and beat the Packers by a field goal. Packers covered, I think, around a touchdown spread. Whether whether Micah Parsons plays 10 snaps, 40 snaps. I'm thinking about two defensive ends that have been traded over the last 5 years or so. Big deals across the NFL historically. I don't really care because I was high on the Packers entering this week and this season, especially when you factor in this is probably similar but apples and oranges to the 49ers. A good time to pounce and fade Detroit based on the fact that you're getting the Lions offense and the Lions defense without Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson running the show on both sides of the ball. I like Green Bay in this game, and I like them long term.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by this one. Does Detroit come out and look completely different? We go, oh, wow, we have to move this team way down in our power ratings, or do they come out and look normal? I guess if you're Detroit, you did run pure at least a little bit. You are a dome team going outdoors to Green Bay in September, so you don't have to worry, at least from a weather standpoint, where that is typically such a massive advantage for the Packers. Again, fun game in the afternoon window. I'm glad we get this one for sure. Houston on the road at the Rams. This is 3.5 in favor of the Rams, though there are several juiced threes. This could be heading to 3.5 at a lot of different places out there. 43.5 is the prevailing total. We alluded to this earlier in the show, Eli. I mean, like this Houston defense could be a top 3, if not the top defense in the entire NFL, and this offensive line is 32nd in everybody's ratings by a long shot. So, what do we get out of Houston here as they head on the road to LA?
Well, like you said, Texans defense, well respected, if not one of the better, if not the best defense in the NFL. The Rams defense really turned things around down the stretch last year, especially in that wild card game when they wreaked havoc and then some against Sam Darnold and even gave the Eagles a scare, probably their biggest scare in the divisional round on the road, mind you, last year in snowy conditions. But I don't have a play on this one. If I was going to bet anything, it would have been the under, but that's been bet down a little bit from a key number, from a total standpoint of 44 down to 43.5, like you touched on at some shops. Under or pass for me. Maybe I look live to a live under if we get an early score from either side, but Texans offensive line has plenty of issues, as you've harped on throughout this show. Matthew Stafford has had the back injury throughout the offseason. We don't necessarily know what we're going to get from him. Under or pass?
Yeah. Lots of question marks, and we don't have to bet every game. That's kind of how I look at this. You know, lots of question marks in this one, and we do not have to bet every single game. And guys, again, reminder, if you have not done so already, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. We do appreciate you guys being with us here on the show throughout the course of the season as we break down, hopefully make some money along the way as well. Now to Sunday Night Football. This is actually going to be brought to you by Bet365. Listen up, if you won't want to miss this. Like right now, Bet365, you can bet $5, get $300 in bonus bets, win or lose. So you can turn that into $300 into something bigger when you bet on money line spreads, totals, player props, whatever it might be. $300 in bonus bets when new customers bet just $5. So me and Eli are going to take advantage of this for sure. So go in, download the app, see what's never ordinary over at Bet365. If you have a gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER, 21 and older, and terms and conditions do apply here for this one. So, Eli, the game of the week, Sunday Night Football, Baltimore and Buffalo. This is a point and a half in favor of Baltimore as we record this. There is one pick'em here in Vegas at South Point, so maybe one of these other ones hits pick or something, as we flutter back and forth between this kind of 1.5. 50.5, the prevailing total. Boy, what a game to get us kicked off here on Sunday Night Football.
Two Super Bowl contenders, whether you just want to look at it on the surface from public perception or according to the futures market. I've been high, as you well know, on Baltimore for the last 3 or 4 years, going back to even before they had Tom Monken, when they had frickin' Greg Roman running that offense that drove me to my grave almost, betting on Baltimore every single week. But with that said, with the market shifting to Baltimore and with this line, like you said, at most books, granted, it's a dead number, if you want to call it that, at 1.5. So you're not getting a ton of value either way. Although if you tease the Bills up from 1.5 to maybe over the key number of a touchdown, then maybe you have me intrigued. But even with all my Ravens optimism, and even with this once again being the year for Lamar Jackson, according to public sentiment, I don't really have a say on this game at still a dead number at a pick'em 1.5. If the Ravens get any sort of positive turnover variance, which didn't happen in that divisional matchup last year, one of the best playoff games going back to the 2025 postseason, then the market is probably correct on this game. But I'm not willing to fade Buffalo in the season opener at home. So pass for me. Total of 50.5. Maybe a little bit inflated in the first game of the season with Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen not playing preseason ball. A little different than Aaron Rodgers not playing preseason, as you touched on off the top. But long story short, no bet.
Yeah, I have a tiny bit of under in this one, and mainly just because, like you said, I wonder, look, every game's important in the NFL, but are you emptying the tank here in week 1 against a team that you might like highly, highly likely to see again throughout the course of the year? I mean, everybody wants to start 1-0. I get that, but like, are we really just firing all the bullets here, Eli, in week number 1? I don't know, right? And so I think maybe a little bit closer to the vest here in this one, maybe a little bit more running than usual and all of that. So, like, I played a little bit of the under here in this one. Hard for me to make a case for either side. They both are awesome. Both of these teams are going to be right there at the bitter end, so long as they don't run into the injury bug. So that's kind of my stance here on this one. I guess from a macro standpoint with the Ravens, I would just say, listen, even if they lose this game, and even however they start, just remember, 5 of their 6 first games are pretty tough, and then it really lightens up after that. It's like, you know, put a calendar reminder in to like check what the odds are on this team after week 6, because 5 of their first 6 games are Buffalo, Detroit, Kansas City, Houston, and the Rams, right? Like, if they come out of that 3-3, it's not the end of the world when you start. Then it becomes Chicago, Miami, Cleveland, the Jets. You get a couple against Pittsburgh. You get New England in there and all of that. Like, it really lightens up after that first 6 weeks. And so I think the Ravens might provide some in-season value if things don't go exactly right over the first 6 weeks of the season. Now, they could easily be the best team in the NFL and be 6-0 through all this, and this doesn't play out. But, you know, I put a calendar reminder in there because, Eli, hey, if they're 3-3 and I'm getting much better odds on them to win the Super Bowl, or much better odds on Lamar to win MVP, or much better odds on them to win the division, all of that, I think that's something we can exploit in season.
Yeah, I hate to use the cliche, but I'll say it anyways. Bet numbers, not teams. So even if you really like the Ravens to win the Super Bowl, does that mean they're valuable at +3 or 650 or so? At this point, maybe you're more inclined to wait, like you said, Matt. Also, one last thing before we wrap up the Sunday Night Football conversation. At Bet365, they have the early payout offer. So if your team goes up by 17 or more points and you bet them straight up on the money line, let's say you do so with the Ravens, and somehow they're up by 17 points in this game. For baseball, I think it's 5 or more runs. Your bet gets paid out, so you win no matter the final result in the game, if your team is up by 17 points and you bet them straight up. So that's a pretty cool offer from 365.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So again, guys, go in and take advantage of all of that, all of those offers that we mentioned there at Bet365. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. Let us know how you are going to play this game. Is there any props that stand out to you? Do you think Lamar's going to run wild? Do you think Josh Allen's going to run wild? Or maybe does this just become a shootout through the air? Or, whatever. Let us know what you think. And, of course, we'll read all of those. Do appreciate you guys being with us through all of this. Eli, looking forward to an exciting season here, buddy. Looking forward to trying to make some money and looking forward to doing content with you here each and every week.
So let me just wrap up with this. Outside of the Packers bet, I am most likely betting on Justin Fields and Sam Darnold. You have agreed with me. We have agreed on almost every take on every game. I don't know, man. I cashed in on my Cowboys bet to begin the season. You cashed in on half of your teaser legs with the Eagles. So we're off to a good start, and we're off to a good start conversationally, which is nice as well.
Listen, we promise you guys we will not be agreeing on everything throughout the course of the season. We tend to zig and zag somewhere along the way for sure. So it'll get fun here on the program. As always, written stuff over on lineups.com. Go in, take in the great work that's getting done over there as well. Good luck on all your week one bets.
Bet $5, get $300 in bonus bets, win or lose, with Bet365 Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, 21 plus only. T&Cs apply. In app only.